Yo, what's up guys? Oscar Dan here and welcome back to How to Build the Classic Physique. We are on the last video of this series. We're on part 10, Classic Abs plus Waist. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about some anatomy like we always do, some good models to look at, and I'm going to give you a personal vacuum routine that I found in one of Vince's courses that he prescribes to his clients to give you that small classic waist. So basically, I'm gonna be taking out the frustration of you figuring out, oh, how long should I do the vacuum for? How do I do it? I'm gonna tell you how to do it. I'm gonna tell you how long to do it for, and I'm gonna give you sets, reps, how to, I'm gonna give you the whole blueprint of how to like follow it, and then we're gonna talk about some exercises to give you those classic abs. Cool. Now let us begin. All right, let's go over some quick anatomy of the abs. Two parts I really want you to focus on, actually three parts. Number one would be the rectus abdominis. Vince was a high advocate in training that a lot. Another one would be the transverse abdominis, and another one would be the obliques. Now, Vince wasn't a big fan of getting you to work your obliques because that ruins the illusion. Having any weighted ab exercise could be detrimental. It depends. Some people like do weighted ab exercises and they get a tighter, like they get rock hard abs, and they're able to keep that tight waist and that V taper. But if I were to do them, I get a fat waist. Like it ruins my V taper. That's exactly why I don't do weighted ab exercises. I don't know. I think I heard Frank Zane doing it one time. I think Arnold did it one time. I mean, some of them did it back then, and they still had tiny waists. I don't know how they do it, but now it's like nowadays you work your abs like that with weight, and it kind of like it makes them blocky. And that's what kind of like that's what we don't want. We don't want a blocky waist. We want an aesthetic trim waist. Cool. Now let's move on to some models. Let's get into the good stuff. I'm excited. Are you excited? I'm ready to go. Let's do this, man. Let's do this. All right, right here we got three really good models. And you're probably the first one you got, the first guy you probably looked at was the guy in the middle. Now that is Brian Buchanan. There, I think he's very underrated. Not a lot of people know about him. He that's a pretty crazy waist. Just look at that. Look at that vacuum. Look at that waist. It's a really small waist. Very comparable to Lee Haney. Lee Haney had a pretty good V taper. But anyways, let's get down to it. Number one, we have Vince Gironda on the left. He was like 49 there, I believe, like 49 or something like that. He was like, I think he was like over in his 40s, man. Just imagine looking like that when you're 40. Trim waist. Look at those abs. Look at that chest. Look at the square chest, the legs, the calves. Really aesthetic looking guy. He's a good model to look at because look at that trim waist. He's at 40 something years old and he has a trim waist, man. I mean, how many 40-year-olds do you know that had a trim waist like that? He knows how to trim. He knows how to keep a trim waist with his specific exercises that he would do. He never did sit-ups because he wasn't a big fan of sit-ups because he said it was stupid because with the thing with sit-ups, the part the main part that works your abs in the exercise is when you come up, not when you come down. So he was more of a fan of you just doing the up part of the movement instead of coming all the way down. Or actually, you know what? He said that you didn't have to come all the way up, that you only had to come up like a quarter of the way to actually work your abs. That doing the whole full range of movement for sit-ups is useless. And I kind of agree. All right, so anyways, next up is the Brian Buchanan. He's a very good example of a classic waist. The classic waist, the small waist is what really gives you that classic look. I mean, Frank Zane, Arnold. Arnold didn't have really much of a small waist, but it looked like he had a small waist. But yeah, it's kind of like a must when you trying to build a classic physique. You have to have the small waist. And if you don't have the small waist right now, don't worry. We're gonna fix that. I'm gonna tell you how to. I'm gonna prescribe you something to help you trim down your waist because it's a really big part of the classic physique. Not only to, it's also recommended by Leroy Colbert on YouTube. He was an 80-year-old bodybuilder who just died in 2015. All natural, first man to build 21-inch arms. It's funny because he actually didn't build. He actually had 20-inch arms, and it wasn't until he stopped lifting where he actually got to 21-inch arms. Now that is called something else. I forgot what that's called. Someone mentioned it on my YouTube, and I'm trying that this week. I'm trying to take off some time from the gym to really let my body recover because it makes sense. It's like your body needs time to recover. Anyways, I digress. Anyways, last one up is Serge Nubret. Now this guy would start off with 500 to 1,000 sit-ups a day in the morning. He said it would take him about an hour or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, not only does he start off with 1,000 sit-ups. I don't know if you guys know a guy named Artemis on Instagram. He starts off his day with about, I don't know, like 400, 500 sit-ups. And another reference that it's important to do sit-ups every day, especially in the morning, was Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was reading up in an interview. He was getting interviewed by some guy asking him, "Oh, what's the best thing to do for fat?" But anyways, he got to the point and he started talking about abs. He's like, it's important to do, the 100 sit-ups at least a day, every morning. Do the sit-ups every day, and I agree because a lot of them did sit-ups back then. They did a lot of ab exercises to warm up. Like I remember reading an article about Frank Zane how they would start off with abs and they would do like 10 minutes of just straight abs, like leg raises, crunches, decline crunches, or a lot of core work. A lot of core work is recommended from Arnold, Frank Zane, a bunch of those guys. But another thing that is also recommended is the vacuum. The vacuum is a really good way to work your abs because the vacuum works the entire underlying transverse abdominals, which encircles your entire midsection like a belt, like the Adonis belt, whatever they call it. Back then, everybody did the vacuum. I mean, you name it: Reg Park, Steve Reeves, Leroy Colbert, Vince Gironda, Arnold, Frank Zane. I mean, all those guys. There's a reason why they did it. They need to keep that tight waist, and it's another thing because it makes you look more aesthetic when you can do the vacuum. It was kind of like a big thing back then. I mean, it still is, but not as much as it was back then. Another thing back then they did a lot of Roman chair sit-ups and a lot of leg raises. It was kind of like you would warm up with the Roman chair sit-ups for like 10 minutes, maybe bang out like 100 reps, and then maybe you might move on to some leg raises or something like that. But yeah, that was like a big thing back then. They did a lot of leg raises and a lot of Roman chair sit-ups. Frank Zane said that from doing a lot of leg raises, it gave him really good upper quad separation. I can understand that why it would. I mean, it also gives you that tight V. When you do your leg raises, that works the V part pretty good. And I could understand why it would give you good leg separation. So yeah, that was just like a little fun tip. I mean, I found that kind of interesting that he would say, "Oh, this gave me some pretty good upper quad separation." All right, cool. Now that we discussed some models, some really good models to look at, like Brian Buchanan, Serge Nubret, you start off with 1,000 sit-ups a day. Brian Buchanan, the tiny waist, kind of a must thing. Vince Gironda, tight waist, 40 years old, pretty good stuff. Now let's move on to some ab exercises or like some stuff to focus on so you can get that classic waist. I'm gonna prescribe you a vacuum routine that you can follow so you can start getting that small waist, and also I might prescribe you a ab routine, a classic ab routine too. Cool. Let's get started. All right, like I said, back then they did a lot of sit-ups. They would warm up with about 1,000 sit-ups a day. Surgeon Debray, he said he would do about 1,000 sit-ups a day just to warm up in the morning, taking about an hour. Arnold said it was a must do sit-ups every day. Doing sit-ups is a must every day. Frank Zane said he would work up from about 400 to 1,000 sit-ups a day, depending on whether he was competing or not. When he was competing, he would work up to 1,000 sit-ups. So kind of a must. So two exercises you want to focus on: the sit-ups and the leg raises. Frank Zane, of course, they did a lot of leg raises back then. There's a guy who Frank Zane met at the gym at Gold in Venice. He said, what was his name? He said there was a guy back then. His name was Zabo Kozuwiski. Yeah, he said he had some pretty good abs, and a lot of the ab exercises that he focused on was the Roman chair sit-ups and the leg raises. So yeah, I had to look up his name because I totally forgot his name because I know he said he met some guy at the gym, but I forgot who it was. But yeah, sit-ups and leg raises. Sit-ups in the morning when you wake up, definitely a must. Leg raises at the gym, and vacuums, of course. All right, cool. Now I'm going to prescribe you one of Vince's personal vacuum routines. Now I wrote it down, so let me bust it out for you. All right, so here's Vince's personal vacuum routine. You're gonna hold the vacuum for 10 seconds. You're gonna stop, and you're gonna repeat that for 10 reps. So you hold it for 10 seconds, that's one rep. Then you do it again, another 10 seconds, that's two reps. You're gonna go up to 10 reps. So you're gonna do like basically like 10 sets. So that's about, what is that? I don't know. You do the math. Anyways, you're gonna do that 10 times a day. That is Vince's minimum prescribed right there. I no, actually that's not his minimum. That is the recommended routine he gave out in some of his courses. Totally agree with it. Totally, I totally recommend it too. But even I don't even do it that much. But anyways, here's a really big tip. Doing vacuums in the morning is a must, honestly. If I were to structure an ab routine or like a morning routine to get a classic waist, it would probably be warm up like with about maybe 300 to 400 sit-ups a day, and then like do some vacuum exercises in between. That would honestly be my type of morning routine for like my to get my waist smaller and to get my abs tighter. So yeah, every morning would probably consist of 200, 400 sit-ups. A must. I mean, Arnold says it, Frank Zane said it. I mean, they all did tons of abs back then. There's a reason why. Tight core, the small waist. You want to keep that waist trim. But you know what? Vince Gironda wasn't a big fan of the sit-up because, like I said earlier, he said doing the whole entire movement was stupid. But an ab exercise that he did recommend that I think is really, really good. It's called the frog sit-up. What you do is you basically have your legs crisscross applesauce, and you lie back and you have your legs crisscross applesauce, and then you come up like you're gonna do a crunch, but you can't really come up that much because you're limited by the not the I wouldn't say the gravity, but it's like your legs are in a position where you can't really come all the way up. You come up to a point where as much as you can, you flex your abs and you come back down. But that was one way of doing it. Now Vince had an interesting way of doing it. He would see the thing is when you train abs, when you train them when you're full of air, they don't work as good. So if you have like it's important to like when you're doing your ab exercises to blow out your air so you can contract your abs. Now Vince had an interesting way of doing this. You would do a frog sit up, and when you would come up, you would flex the abs, and when you come down, you would do the vacuum, and then come up and then flex abs, and you do that. And it's like he said that it was like that would get people fucking tired. Like just imagine doing the vacuum and doing abs at the same time. I mean, you can Google right now, look up Vince Gironda, um, frog sit-ups with vacuums or something like that. You're gonna find an interesting picture. But yeah, that's something he recommended. Now I'm gonna teach you how to do the vacuum. All right, so I'm going to teach you in the most simple way possible. Now, it's important to do this in the morning right when you wake up. So when you wake up, go to the sink. Just go to the sink. There's a reason why I'm telling you to do this. So when you're at the sink, I want you to rest your hands over the sink. And then I want you to rest your chin on your chest. And once you're resting your chin on your chest, I want you to contract your abs. Flex them as hard as you can. And once you got them flexed, I want you to take in like a deep breath of air, like you're sucking in air, and then but you have to think about sucking in your stomach. And I know it's gonna be like rough at the beginning. You're gonna be like, oh, I can't do it. I'm telling you, you're gonna do it, but it's gonna be like it's not gonna be as powerful. Like don't get discouraged. It takes a while to work up to it. Like I've taught people like over the phone. I've taught people like over pictures. Like it's honestly super easy to do. So it's really about pulling your abdomen into your stomach. Like you flex your abs and then taking a deep breath in air and like think about sucking your stomach in. It's honestly it's pretty easy to do. I had no problem doing it because I've been doing it since I was in the third grade or the second grade. I remember when I was like sitting in class and I was like starving. And Frank Zane did this too. He said he would do the vacuum when he was starving to kill his hunger. And I did the vacuum too to kill my hunger. I was like just like messing around. I was like my stomach was so empty and I was like fuck, I'm so hungry. And I just like sucked it in. For some reason, I just sucked it in. And I learned and that was the vacuum. I was doing it since like 2000, not even 2000. I think it was like 2001, 2002 or something like that. But anyways, yeah, it's very simple. I mean, anyone can do it. It's just like a matter of like mind to muscle connection, contracting, like thinking about like sucking your stomach, pull it in, and then that's it. I mean, you could hold like beginners would probably hold it for 5 to 10 seconds. If you're more advanced, maybe 15 to 20 seconds. But yeah, All right, so now you have all the tools to get the small waist and the classic abs. I taught you that it is essential to be doing your sit-ups, like your 200 to 500 to maybe even if you can even do 1,000. I think Arnold Artemis would do a thousand a couple times. I don't think he does 1,000 anymore though, because that's pretty insane. But anyways, it's important to do your sit-ups, your leg raises. Frank Zane liked leg raises. As I said, he gave him that good upper quad separation, and Frank Zane had some damn ripped diamond cut quads, man. Like those, he had some pretty ripped quads, and it's essential doing the vacuum like everybody did back then. Steve Reeves, Reg Park, Leroy Colbert, Vince Gironda. I mean, all those guys. It's really, really essential. Essential. I give you an ab routine. You're doing the 10 seconds for 10 reps, and then you're doing for 10 times a day. And I also taught you how to do the vacuum, even though it's a little difficult to teach you over like this presentation. But I try to do it in the best way possible because it's like, actually, you know what? I just thought of an idea. I was like, oh, it's kind of hard to teach over like a presentation. I was like, fuck it. I'm probably gonna do a video. I'm probably gonna title it "How to Do the Vacuum" or "How to Get Small Waist" or something like that. I'm gonna give you maybe 2 tips on how to do the vacuum, how Arnold recommends to do the vacuum, how Frank Zane recommends to do the vacuum, or how Vince Gironda recommends to do the vacuum. A couple of those things, probably gonna be some interesting stuff. Now, to wrap things up, we talked about some anatomy, what stuff to really focus on, the rectus abdominis. You don't really have to necessarily train the obliques too much because it's like you're gonna ruin the illusion if you have some fat ass obliques. You're gonna have a fat waist. We don't want that. We want a small waist, the classic illusion. And then we talked about some really good models. Brian Buchanan, small ass waist. Vince Gironda, tight ass waist. And Serge Nubret, he had some pretty good abs because he would do 1,000 sit-ups every day. It was recommended. Frank Zane did 1,000. Arnold did 1,000. I mean, all those guys. It was like a routine. They all did it back then. And then I gave you Vince's personal vacuum routine, and I gave you a bunch of tips on how to like work out your abs. What the bodybuilders did back then. I really enjoy this series. I like putting out a bunch of like value, a lot of stuff that people don't really know. I like being informative. I like giving people like the base, like the foundation of like, oh, how to do this, like where does this come from? And you kind of like build off of that. You're like, oh, you start making your own conclusions about it. You're like, oh, you know what? He's kind of right. Well, maybe I'll take this in a different direction. Like, you kind of start to like, it's kind of like, oh, here you go. Like, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. And then now you go off on your own way. Like, you fly away like that. So it's been pretty interesting. This series is now over, but don't worry because I'm gonna be starting a new series pretty soon. I want to make sure it's a really, really good one. I want to be able to give really good content. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about results. I'm all about doing shit the easy way and like giving you shit that actually works. I wouldn't sell you or like not sell you. I mean like give you shit. Well, basically selling. Like I wouldn't sell you shit that doesn't work. I wouldn't sell you shit that's like not true. I always try to be like straight up like facts. Like the real shit. That's what I'm all about. I'm not saying I don't lie. I'm just saying I'm a pretty honest guy. Because we all lie. Like, think about it. Everybody lies. And another thing, everybody judges. Anyways, but yeah, I really appreciate all the comments. I saw a lot of my numbers go up. Like, a lot of people started sharing my videos more. A lot of people started liking them more. I even got a little bit of more dislikes. I kind of like that. It means I'm doing something right. So yeah, I like the likes, the views. All my numbers went up. That made me pretty stoked, honestly. I got a lot of good comments on Instagram and YouTube, like, oh, thanks for keep up the good content. I will keep it up. I'm gonna be giving you some shit that works, like some really good shit. I honestly don't want to give out a teaser for my next series because it's like I want to keep it a secret for now. But it's gonna be a while before I put it out because I want to make sure it's really good. I want to make sure it's a really good content. So yeah, if you find this video helpful, share it with someone. Share it with someone who wants a classic physique. Share my other videos with someone who wants a classic physique, classic shoulders, classic calves, or whatever. I really appreciate all the likes. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. This is Old School Dan checking out, and I'll see you in the next series or video. Thank you.